Welcome, and thank you for standing by. At this time, all participants will be in a listen-only mode for the duration of the call. To ask a question, you will use the online portal at the end of the conference. I would now like to turn the call over to Ms. Vanshita Sinha. Thank you, ma'am. You may begin.
Yes, hi. Hello to everyone, and thank you for joining us for the launch of the Tobacco-Free College Campus Initiative Challenge. This is an exciting new initiative of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services in the Office of the Assistant Secretary of Health in collaboration with the Tobacco-Free College Campus Initiative. I'd like to begin with a brief overview of today's agenda. We'll start with Dr. Jim Lando, who will present the opening remarks, followed by Clifford Douglas, who will talk about the Tobacco-Free College Campus Initiative and why campuses should consider going 100% smoke or tobacco-free. And after his presentation, I'll provide an overview of the Tobacco-Free College Campus Initiative Challenge. And last but not least, Josh Prasad will go over how campuses can actually sign up for the challenge. We ask that you hold all of your questions till the very end when we'll have an official Q&A session. And again, you can submit your questions via the Q&A tab that you can see on your web portal. Now I would like to introduce Dr. Jim Lando, who will provide today's opening remarks. Captain Lando is a U.S. Public Health Service Commission Corps officer who serves as the Regional Health Administrator for the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Office of the Assistant Secretary for Health in Region 5. Captain Lando serves as the Principal Federal Public Health Leader, representing the Assistant Secretary for Health and providing executive-level leadership in policy development, planning, implementation, and evaluation of public health programs. Welcome, Dr. Lando.
Thank you, Vidisha. So welcome, everybody. I'm glad so many of you were able to join today. Hopefully, each of you will be either helping your campus become tobacco-free or helping another campus become tobacco-free if yours already is. One of our major priorities in the Office of the Assistant Secretary for Health is tobacco use prevention and cessation. Cessation is an important piece of going tobacco-free on a campus, but the other piece is to prevent youth from initiating. And we know that if people do not take up tobacco before age 25, it's very unlikely that they ever will. And so targeting young adults when they are gaining their independence and making sure that they have the best chance not to take up the tobacco addiction is going to be our best strategy for making sure we have a tobacco-free nation in the future. So I'm very happy that we're launching this initiative and am hopeful that we will be doing some really good work. Today we have people from health profession schools and public health programs on the call. I really want to encourage you that you get your students involved in this effort, that you have faculty and students involved in this effort, and that, again, if you're able to adopt another campus that perhaps doesn't have a health professional school or doesn't have people with expertise in health that's nearby and help them become tobacco-free, I think we will also go a long way, since we also know that some of the more blue-collar or vocational schools, it's an important piece that they go tobacco-free. So thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Lando. Next, I have the pleasure of introducing Clifford Douglas, who will be presenting the Tobacco-Free College Campus Initiative and reasons for going smoke or tobacco-free. Mr. Douglas directs the University of Michigan Tobacco Research Network, teaches tobacco control policy at the University of Michigan School of Public Health, and serves as consulting advisor on tobacco control policy for the U.S. Assistant Secretary for Health, Dr. Howard Koh. Mr. Douglas also serves as consulting attorney for the Smoke-Free Environments Law Project and directs the National Tobacco-Free College Campus Initiative. Cliff, over to you.
Thanks very much, Badisha, and thank you as well to Dr. Lando for a very nice introduction and for helping play a lead role in hosting this call. I have a couple of other thanks I want to begin with as well, because as you'll see in part through our discussion in the next few minutes, this is very much a collaborative effort. It's such a wonderful team effort that I've had the pleasure to be a part of since we launched this initiative in September of 2012 with Dr. Howard Koh and the President of the University of Michigan and the Dean of the School of Public Health at Michigan, Martin Filbert. But I want to thank Badisha and Josh Prasad, whom you'll be hearing from in the next few minutes, for organizing this event and playing such a fundamental role in helping us move this effort forward. I want to thank Dr. Koh himself, as well as our team at HHS, Rosie Henson and Simon McNabb, for being such a terrific tobacco control policy team for our lead health agency. So what I'd like to do is begin by laying a little bit of a foundation for our discussion, because we talk about this in a very specific context. Of course, we're talking about our college and university campuses, but we are specifically talking about the tobacco epidemic, which remains, and I'm going to give you the good news and the bad news part of this paradox, but it remains the leading preventable cause of death, not only in the United States and in every one of our individual states, but also globally. But we have a good news side to this, as highlighted very recently in the 50th anniversary Surgeon General's report that was issued in January. Tobacco prevention and tobacco control in the U.S. has been, in the eyes of most experts, the most successful public health campaign in the history of the United States, if not the world. In the last half century, due to our collective efforts in educating people, in applying sensible and increasingly effective rules and regulations dealing with tobacco use in public places, for example, we have succeeded in saving 8 million lives in the United States based on people successfully quitting and in many cases simply not starting, whereas they would have in the absence of these efforts. And here's a remarkable figure that really struck me when we look at the impact of these efforts, which this campus initiative now becomes a part of. Average life expectancy in the U.S. has increased by about 10 years in just the past 50 years, which is truly remarkable. But as remarkable is the fact that almost a third of that 10-year increase in our lifespans, about 3 years, is directly due specifically to reductions in tobacco use and, above all, cigarette smoking. But I said that there is a paradox here, and there really is. The tobacco problem, for all of those gains, has not been solved since 1964 and that first Surgeon General's report issued by Luther Terry. Cigarette smoking has killed more than 20 million people in this country. Our family members, I'm sure many on this call today, have experienced personally the devastation caused by cigarette smoking. This has caused the death of about 2.5 million non-smokers and more than 100,000 babies due to the impact of things like sudden infant death syndrome and low birth weight and premature birth. We still have about 45 million smokers in the U.S. Tobacco is now known to cause about 480,000 deaths per year, and it also causes enormous economic costs in our society due to direct health care coverage as well as lost productivity. Here's a very simple graphic. I think some folks on the call probably have seen these data before. But when you combine all of these leading causes of death in our society, AIDS and car crashes, and all illegal drugs, murders and suicides, alcohol, and even fires, by the way, many of which are caused by cigarette butts, all of those combined total about 2/3 of the toll caused by cigarette smoking all by itself in a year. And when we look at the context in which we're focused today, college campuses, this really brings it home. Based on current rates, it's projected that nationwide in the U.S., more than 1 million current college students will die from tobacco use. And again, it's based on current rates, which suggests very strongly that our efforts in this area can help redirect that projection and save a lot of lives. And as our acting U.S. Surgeon General, Boris Lushniak, has highlighted, and as Dr. Lando alluded to at the beginning of this event, if young people don't start using tobacco by age 26, they almost certainly will never start. So we deal in the college context with a truly significant transition period. It gives us an opportunity to really make a difference. So very briefly, when we talk about the impact of cigarette smoke, it's kind of useful to understand, why is it so devastating compared to so many other things? And as the recent Surgeon General's report highlights again, there are in the range of 7,000 chemicals that are emitted by a cigarette, more than 70 of which we know to be human carcinogens. And you can see here a list of a dozen that I picked out because many of these are familiar in other contexts. We think of cadmium, for example, which is a carcinogen that is a key component in batteries, and butane, which is, of course, lighter fluid. Ammonia is a poisonous gas. It's also toilet bowl cleaner, but it also happens to be not only produced naturally when you burn a cigarette, but it's used as an additive by cigarette manufacturers. As we learned in the mid-1990s in the course of investigations and the disclosure of previously secret tobacco company documents, they use it as an additive because it acts synergistically with nicotine to heighten the addictive impact of the drug on the central nervous system and the brain. And then, of course, there's carbon monoxide, which is produced in auto exhaust. And the list goes on, but I just wanted to highlight this as kind of a concrete example of what we're talking about here. So let's move on now to the Tobacco-Free College Campus Initiative and the primary focus of our conversation. TFCCI was launched, as I mentioned, in September of 2012. You can see here a very nice picture of Dr. Coe with Jenny Habenreiser, who is the president of the American College Health Association, one of our key partners in this effort, and Paula State, who's an expert who is at the University of Oregon and helped move their policy forward. We developed a vision for the campaign, which is the widespread expansion of tobacco-free policies to institutions of higher learning across the U.S. Our basic goals are to, number one, foster a collaborative and cooperative effort among academic institutions and partners in the public health community. Second, to expand awareness in academia and among the public of the need for and benefits of these policies. And then finally, and I think that this call would be an example of it, to facilitate information flow and access to technical assistance. And through these efforts, we've enjoyed a great deal of success in creating synergies with a great many stakeholders, students and academic leadership, faculty, and a range of health promotion specialists at institutions around the country. Now, special appreciation goes to some of these leading agencies, these partners who have been participating in this effort from the beginning. I'd like to give a shout out to the American Legacy Foundation, which has provided really key support and continues to for this initiative. I mentioned the American College Health Association as a key partner. We now have a very active partnership as well from the Association of Schools and Programs of Public Health, who we met with yet again on this initiative just last week in Washington. And as you can see, other partners like the major voluntaries, the Cancer Society, the Lung Association, and others. So this initiative really is about communication. We've held a number of webinars. We have visited, and I've been part of many of these in-person visits to colleges and universities around the country. ranging from the community college world to historically black colleges and universities to Ivy League schools. We really are covering everything we can. And Josh, whom you'll hear from again shortly, has been instrumental in the great progress we've made in the area of communication, so I want to thank him in particular for everything he's done to expand and grow our website. You can see an image here, and it's tobaccofreecampus.org. I strongly recommend that everyone use it. It was set up as a kind of one-stop shop resource where we pull together resources developed by many others. And I do want to underscore that it wasn't designed to supplant or replace any of those other wonderful resources out there, but rather to serve as kind of a hub where we provide things directly and also link you to so many other great resources and materials that you can use in your own efforts. So again, the initiative is about communication. We've gotten very active in the social media in recent months. You can see here references to our Facebook. Please do go there and like it and keep tabs on what we're providing there. We're very active on Twitter as well, and we've integrated all of these resources through the website as well. So please do go and follow us on Twitter. We look forward to seeing you there. Now, I talked about the success that we've had since launching the initiative. It's actually rather remarkable. I started working personally on tobacco control way back in almost the dark ages of this. It was in the late 1980s, and I helped coordinate the effort to expand and make permanent the airline smoking ban on behalf of our large voluntary health groups in Washington. And I have to say that of all the things I've been involved in this quarter century, I have personally never seen any of our efforts catch fire, sorry, no pun intended, and expand and grow as rapidly as we've seen take place in this area. So as you can see now, according to data from Americans for Non-Smokers' Rights Foundation, there are well over 1,300 campuses all across the U.S. that are now 100% smoke-free, both indoors and outdoors, covering all property with no exemptions, including residential housing facilities where they exist. And one of the more extraordinary things, and I'll talk some more about this issue, is that about 2/3 of all of the smoke-free campuses are actually smoke and tobacco-free, not permitting the use of any tobacco products on campus. Here's just a little list of some of the larger, more prominent campuses in the U.S. that have gone tobacco-free. As you can see, they exist all across the country. And I do want to just highlight the fact that, as we've shown here, we have some leading flagship institutions even in the Deep South in what's for decades been referred to as tobacco country, like the University of Kentucky and the University of South Carolina, which have adopted comprehensive tobacco-free policies. And it really does tell you a lot about the paradigm shift that we've experienced in this area. And I'm really delighted to note that, at least in part through this initiative that we're talking about today, we've seen close to a 75% increase in the number of smoke-free universities in this country just since we launched the initiative less than 2 years ago. Here's a simple graphic just showing the exponential growth that we've experienced. And I do want to highlight, though, that we have a long way to go. We have a lot to do because, all told, according to the Department of Education, we have more than 4,000 institutions of higher learning in the U.S., from the major universities and colleges to community colleges to smaller vocational schools. So we have made a lot of progress, but we have a lot of opportunity to make a lot more progress in the coming months and years. Now, I mentioned that I would talk a little bit about the fact that many campuses are going tobacco-free. In other words, they're going beyond eliminating smoking on campus and addressing other tobacco products as well. So let me just talk a little bit about why they're doing that and why it is important from a public health perspective. First of all, there are, of course, the direct effects of smokeless, or as it's known, spit tobacco. As you'll see on the warning labels, they are addictive. They contain nicotine. The Surgeon General repeatedly underscores the fact that spit tobacco is not a safe alternative to cigarette smoking. Most smokeless tobacco products in the U.S. cause oral and esophageal and pancreatic cancer. They cause significant dental and oral problems. And they also increase the risk of fatal heart attacks and stroke. And you'll see that fatal is underscored because what that means is that if you do have a heart attack or a stroke, if you use spit tobacco, you're less likely to survive that episode. And here's a key issue here. The reason that many campuses are addressing smokeless tobacco is there a couple of reasons. First of all, there are the direct health effects, which we've just highlighted. But second of all, there is an interrelationship of smoking and the use of these other forms of tobacco, which have, if you will, the side effect of perpetuating addiction in many cigarette smokers because of dual usage. And you can see that the tobacco industry itself has sought to position through marketing efforts smokeless tobacco products as situational substitutes for cigarettes rather than a replacement. So in short, if you continue to permit the use of smokeless tobacco on campus, you diminish the likelihood that those smokers who smoke cigarettes and are interested in quitting will succeed in doing so because they'll be able to bridge their cigarette smoking with smokeless tobacco when they're not allowed to smoke on campus. Another key issue that many are aware of now, and it's really a burgeoning one, it's in the headlines, it seems constantly these days, is the issue of e-cigarettes, electronic cigarettes, which are kind of a newfangled product. They were produced in China originally and now are marketed by several of the major cigarette companies as well as independent e-cigarette companies in the U.S. The Lorillard Tobacco Company, for one of the major cigarette companies, they produce brands like Newport, which is the leading menthol brand in the U.S. But they are also now the leading producer of electronic cigarettes, and new data out in just recent days show that e-cigarette marketing has reached something like 24 million kids and young adults in this country, and usage is increasing. Let's talk a little bit about what these products are and why they're of relevance to the campus context. First of all, the Food and Drug Administration has issued a proposed rule. I won't go into detail right now, but they are looking at the possibility of regulating e-cigarettes as well as various other nicotine delivery products for health and safety, because right now electronic cigarettes, which are nicotine-based products, they are addictive, are not regulated. We're dealing with kind of a Wild West marketplace out there. The marketing resembles marketing of old for conventional cigarettes going back decades, and we know that there are now well over 1 million and maybe several times more that at this point users of e-cigarettes in this country, with ultimately unknown effects on what it will do for the tobacco epidemic. The World Health Organization has taken a position on e-cigarettes. They highlight, as the FDA has, that their safety has not been scientifically demonstrated. They're advising consumers not to use them at this juncture. There's a variable amount and unregulated amount of nicotine and other unknown substances, and the efficacy, the effectiveness of e-cigarettes for helping people to stop smoking has not yet been scientifically demonstrated. Now, I will add, objectively, that the science is moving rather quickly, and perhaps in the next year and a half, we will have a much more solid foundation for understanding the impact of e-cigarettes and perhaps the effectiveness of e-cigarettes in assisting people in quitting or perhaps reducing their harm. But this is a complicated issue, and it's complicated for a couple of reasons. I mentioned the aggressive marketing by the cigarette industry. These ads don't come from some kind of fringe fly-by-night outfit, but rather from the Lorillard Cigarette Company, which, as I mentioned, is one of the majors. They are discouraging quitting nicotine, that is. And you can see the ad on the left, which highlights that the company would like smokers to at least switch to blue. That's their leading brand. They also are encouraging the evasion of smoke-free laws, which they know are one of the most significant and effective public health tools that we have at our disposal for protecting people against secondhand exposure, but also for reducing tobacco use itself. And this is a rather colorful ad on the right from Laura Lard trying to make this case. Laura Lard, for its part, wrote to FDA Commissioner Peggy Hamburg last October and said, as you can see, that responsible e-cigarette manufacturers, including their own company, do not market to youth. They understand the sensitivity associated with advertising and marketing campaigns and their potential influence on minors. And they go on. Well, that was last October, and as you can see that in just the last couple of months, this is how Laura Lard chose not to market to youth. This is a pullout from the recent Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue. And if you were to go online to look at this ad, Laura Lard did the favor to I guess 12 and 14-year-old boys of providing a zoom-in feature in case they couldn't look closely enough at the magazine. So I apologize if anyone is offended by this, but it's critical to understand the nature of the marketing around this right now. The bottom line on e-cigarettes, and this applies to the college and university campus context, is not that we're looking at the health issue as a one-to-one comparison between e-cigarettes and conventional cigarettes. I don't think many people believe that the average e-cigarette is going to be as harmful as a conventional Marlboro or Winston or Camel. But rather, the concern is the overall risk it poses for public health. E-cigarette marketing, like smokeless tobacco marketing, is aggressively encouraging dual usage, cigarettes and e-cigarettes, in lieu of quitting or truly switching. And let me highlight something there. We understand from the studies that have been done so far that there are a great many people out there who are using e-cigarettes to reduce their harm or perhaps in an effort to quit. But a sizable percentage of those people, and this presumably is also the case on our campuses, are not quitting cigarette smoking entirely. They may, for example, reduce their smoking of Camels or Marlboros from, say, a pack a day, which would be 20 cigarettes, down to just a handful, maybe between 1 and 5 cigarettes. But here's the thing. When we talk about dose response, we know that if you're only smoking between 1 and 5 cigarettes a day, you have still increased your lung cancer risk, depending on whether you're a man or a woman, from 400 to 500%. The only way that someone is going to potentially experience the benefit that they would like from switching is to switch 100%. That much we think we're starting to understand now, but again, the science is still under development, and again, this is an unregulated industry. The other thing on campus is that e-cigarettes the use of e-cigarettes creates confusion. It sends a mixed health message, but it's not always easy beyond, say, 5 or 10 feet away from the user of an e-cigarette to know what it is they're using. And therefore, when it comes to implementation and effective compliance with a campus policy, this is why we now have identified, I think the exact number is 167 college and university campuses around the country that have included e-cigarettes in their smoke and tobacco-free policies. Another thing that's critical here is that these policies are effective. I'm not going to go into great detail here. We'll be able to provide these data to everyone on the webinar afterward. Let me also refer you again to tobaccofreecampus.org because all of this information is there plus more. But let me just note here that as demonstrated, for example, in this study, which compared two universities demographically very similar and not even terribly far away from each other, Indiana University and Purdue obviously are both in Indiana. The impact of the Indiana University policy on reducing both prevalence, which is the number of people smoking on campus, and also consumption, which is the amount that they smoke. Among students, the impact was significant, as it was in encouraging a favorable change in attitudes on campus regarding the elimination of smoking on campus. In contrast with Purdue, which all other things being equal, the only difference was Purdue did not implement a comprehensive policy. Purdue saw increases in smoking during the period of time studied. Similarly, at my institution, the University of Michigan, our survey data showed that consumption dropped measurably among faculty and staff, showed an increase in quitting and quit attempts, all largely due to the change in our policy eliminating smoking on campus. There are also, before we go, environmental benefits. And this has really, I think, caught the attention of a lot of people, because even those who are not particularly concerned about tobacco use or cigarette smoking, many people are concerned about the environment and environmental degradation. And, you know, there are other major benefits to this in addition to the preeminent one, which is health. And these also have secondhand effects on the majority of people who don't use tobacco. So when we look at the environmental impact of cigarette smoking, as highlighted here, cigarette butts are the leading source of litter, of waste, in the United States, in all, or at least virtually all of our communities, and even globally. Cigarette butt litter contains all of the same nicotine, the pesticides and other chemicals that are contained in the cigarettes smoked by users before dropping them on the street or in parks or wherever they are. They're the single most commonly collected waste item found each year in cleanups. They're not biodegradable. And for those who are concerned about this area as well, more than 18 billion trees are destroyed every year for tobacco production. And I mention it in part because this also seems to be of considerable interest to a lot of our students as well as faculty and staff. Campus policies have been demonstrated to reduce cigarette litter. I cite one study here from researchers at the University of North Carolina. North Carolina, by the way, which is often regarded as the leading quote-unquote tobacco state in the United States, has also become a leader in adoption of comprehensive tobacco-free policies at its colleges and universities across the state. They have become a model for us in this area. But researchers at UNC concluded that these policies are associated with reduced cigarette butts near building entrances compared with those campuses that don't have those kinds of restrictions. And you can see here that the reduction is significant, and it's an easy way to measure the kind of impact we have when these policies are put in place. There are also economic benefits, and this is, of course, an area, the bottom line is important to all of our academic institutions, to the leadership in our institutions, and they're pretty straightforward. Not surprisingly, reduced cigarette smoking, tobacco use lead to reduced employee health care costs, reduced absenteeism, increased employee productivity, and then going back to some of these other secondary effects, cost savings, as well as simply employee work time devoted to cleaning up grounds and engaging in building maintenance around this. And it's been noted in the American Legacy Foundation has done a lot of work in this area. They've noted the fact that, you know, the costs of cleaning up this extensive pollution are not borne by tobacco manufacturers or even directly by their customers, but rather by the communities and institutions where this littering takes place. And of course, there is presumably reduced fire damage when thousands fewer cigarette butts, sometimes lit cigarette butts, are dropped into the landscaping or around buildings. So let me just conclude at this point. by again referencing our fearless leader, Dr. Koh, who was chiefly responsible for getting this initiative underway a couple of years ago. He has said, and clearly this is true, that there is no higher priority in public health than ending the tobacco epidemic. And for those who are interested in expanding beyond all of the resources that we have on our campus website, I've provided here a list, and we can get these to you afterward, of the main tobacco-related, tobacco and health-related websites that are maintained by the Department of Health and Human Services and the Surgeon General and the Centers for Disease Control. It's pretty much everything you could possibly want to know, and you will be able to get that information here. So I will end this portion of our discussion here and turn it back over to Badisha, and I look forward to our Q&A period in a few minutes.
Thanks again, Cliff, for that compelling presentation. I just want to remind everyone that we're asking you to hold a question. You can actually submit your questions now if you wanted to, but using your web portal, the tab that says Q&A on top, you should be able to enter a question into that box. So just with that background that Cliff provided, and after learning about the importance of going smoke or tobacco-free on campus, I'd like to present an opportunity for those of you who might be interested in doing so. As Dr. Lando mentioned earlier, and as Cliff just mentioned, ending the tobacco epidemic is a priority for the Office of the Assistant Secretary for Health. And because of this very commitment, most, if not all, of the regions are actively participating in initiatives focused on ending the tobacco epidemic. The initiative we're presenting today is the Tobacco-Free College Campus Initiative Challenge, which currently exists in Region 3 and 5 and may eventually exist in other regions as well. I'll provide some basic details of the challenge right now, and then my colleague will go over how a campus might sign on to the challenge. The Tobacco-Free College Campus Challenge is a new initiative, again, of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services in the Office of the Assistant Secretary for Health in Region 3 and 5 in collaboration with the Tobacco-Free College Campus Initiative, also known as TFCCI. It's focused on recognizing and supporting the efforts of institutions of higher learning to eliminate tobacco use on their campuses. It also encourages the adoption of 100% tobacco or smoke-free policies by college campuses throughout the HHS Region 3, which includes Delaware, District of Columbia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and West Virginia, and HHS Region 5, which includes the states of Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Minnesota, Ohio, and Wisconsin. The primary goal of the TFCCI Challenge is for all institutions of higher learning participating in the challenge to be 100% smoke or tobacco-free by 2017. Ultimately, we aspire to increase awareness of the ill effects of tobacco on campus and lead a movement to decrease the number of tobacco-related deaths in the region and nationwide. I just want to point out the pictures of Michigan University, which is a 100% smoke-free campus. So you might be asking, what does the challenge entail? What are campuses committing to by signing up? Basically, when a campus signs on to the challenge, they have to commit to completing at least 2 activities in their first year of signing up, and then completing at least two new activities each calendar year thereafter. The entire point is that they're advancing towards achieving a gold or platinum status by the end of 3 calendar years. Pictured here is Georgetown University, whose medical campus is 100% smoke-free. Now, campuses that sign on to the challenge can fall into one of 6 categories, depending on how far along they are in establishing a 100% smoke or tobacco-free policy on their campus. The 6 categories are bronze, silver, gold, platinum, gold plus, and platinum plus. The bronze designation goes to campuses that are just getting started on implementing a 100% smoke or tobacco-free campus policy. In order for them to qualify, however, they do have to commit to fulfilling, again, at least 2 activities within 1 calendar year of signing up. For instance, a campus that is just starting to entertain the idea of going smoke or tobacco-free might commit to forming a campus tobacco task force, or assessing the tobacco-related issues on campus, or even developing an action plan or timeline. The silver designation goes to campuses that are midway in the process of implementing 100% smoke or tobacco-free policy. These campuses have already completed at least 2 activities and are committing to fulfilling 2 new activities within the year of signing onto the challenge. Some mid-level activities may include drafting a smoke or tobacco-free policy and promoting it on a related website or page, or establishing or promoting smoking and tobacco cessation resources on campus. The gold designation goes to campuses that are already 100% smoke-free. To be 100% smoke-free, the policy has to be implemented on all campus grounds and properties. And they do not need to do anything except provide either a link to their existing policy or send us a copy of the policy in order to receive this distinction. Similarly, the platinum designation goes to campuses that are already 100% tobacco-free. Again, they don't need to do anything other than provide us with a copy of their policy to receive this distinction. The 2 highest distinctions we have are the Gold Plus and Platinum Plus levels. When a campus that is already 100% smoke or tobacco-free adds e-cigarettes to their policy, they earn the Plus designation. Platinum Plus, therefore, is a campus that is 100% tobacco-free and has e-cigs in their policy. That is the highest distinction of all. Lastly, I'd like to mention medals are only awarded to Gold, Platinum, Gold Plus, and Platinum Plus campuses. In other words, the bronze and silver levels exist to help you take the necessary steps to become 100% smoke or tobacco-free, and once you do, you're recognized and awarded the respective medals. So that was a very quick overview of the challenge, and now my colleague Josh Prasad of Region 3 will go over the signing up process for the challenge. Over to you, Josh.
Thanks, Vidisha. We'll just hop right into the next portion, which is how to sign up. I'll just refer everyone to our website, which Cliff and Vidisha mentioned a few times, tobaccofreecampus.org. If you go directly to tobaccofreecampus.org/TFCCI-challenge, that's our challenge page where you can find links on how to sign up. If you're in Delaware, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Washington, D.C., or West Virginia, you want to choose the Region 3 link. And if you're in Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Minnesota, Ohio, or Wisconsin, choose the Region 5 link. After that, the form will be essentially the same. You just want to make sure that you choose the right link so that you're properly set up with the right advisor. You'll enter some basic information on the first page just about where your campus is located and what type of campus you are. And then at the bottom of the first page, you'll select, based on your perception of where you are, the level of the campus, the level of the challenge that your campus is. So just as Vidisha mentioned, we have bronze level, silver level, gold or gold plus, platinum or platinum plus. And at the bottom of every page on the form, there is an unsure, need assistance to determine selector option. Feel free to use that. If you have any questions along the way, we'll do our best to help you finish the form. What happens when you click on that is you'll be sent to a technical assistance request form. Fill it out and enter your question, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. So I'm just going to briefly go over these forms. It's super easy and simple, and hopefully not too, we won't get too many questions on how to fill out the form. The bronze level starts off for campuses that have just thought about implementing a tobacco-free policy. So we have a few pre-selected options that you can choose to complete by the end of your first year. These options are form a campus tobacco task force, assess tobacco-related issues on campus, develop an action plan, educate campus members through something like a forum, establish or promote cessation resources on campus, again, an unsure option. And also, I want to re-emphasize the importance of the other option. We've put a bunch of options for you to choose from, but you may have done some other work that you think deserves recognition, so please feel free to use that option. You need to choose two options for either the bronze or silver level to be considered at that level. we'll move right along to the silver level form, which is it looks exactly the same. Except that there's two questions. Silver level campuses would be midway through the policy process, so you're going to enter at least two activities you've already completed, and then the two activities you anticipate completing in the upcoming year. And again, we've put some pre-selected options, the same pre-selected options, but feel free to again use the other option. And this is where we get to the recognition point. If you are implementing a 100% smoke-free or 100% tobacco-free campus, you're going to choose the gold or platinum level selector options. The key here is to note that we want to make sure that every campus is offering or promoting cessation services. So our selector has the first option as a 100% smoke-free campus that currently offers cessation. If you've done more than cessation, we want to know about it as well, including prohibiting sale on campuses, prohibiting sponsorship, etc. And again, there's another option if you've done even more. To get a plus level, gold plus or platinum plus, you're going to choose you're going to answer the second question yes, saying that you've prohibited the use of e-cigarettes or vaping on your campus and it's consistent with your smoke and tobacco-free policy. Again, 100% smoke-free would be a gold level, and 100% tobacco-free would be a platinum level. So that is a brief and very quick overview of how the form works. It's very simple. At the end of the form, you'll enter just basic information about yourself and how you can sign up, including your name and an email address we can reach you at, and a phone number that we can contact you at as well. You want to let us know how you're affiliated with the school, and just check off the three boxes at the bottom affirming that everything you've listed is accurate to your knowledge. Now, there's plenty of other things we can talk about with this challenge. I just want to reinforce a few. We have some resources available to you already. Cliff and Vidisha mentioned the Tobacco-Free Campus website, tobaccofreecampus.org. Please feel free to use that, and more information on the challenge can be found on tobaccofreecampus.org/TFCCI-challenge. There's also sample policies on there, as well as examples and lists of other campuses that have done this as well. We try to keep it as up to date with the social media and other news sources as well. Talking about social media, please feel free to follow us on at TFCCI or Facebook.com/TFCCI. Whenever a campus goes smoke or tobacco-free across the country, we like to celebrate it on the social media. It's one of the little perks of joining this challenge, joining the initiative. So please, again, feel free to do that. And perhaps the most important resource is Vidisha and myself. We're here to help you and guide you through the process that can be sometimes very confusing and feel like it's going to take forever. So do not hesitate to call us or email us and let us know how we can help you at any point in the process. Now, we talked about Region 3 and Region 5 as the two regions that are eligible for this challenge. But if you are in Region 10, that would be Alaska, Idaho, Oregon, or Washington State, we have another challenge. It's called the Fresh Air Campus Challenge. Please contact Molly Reese or go to our website, tobaccofreecampus.org, and click on the Fresh Air Campus information banner. If you're not in any of these regions, we're trying to implement this challenge in other regions as well, and hopefully we'll get there soon. Please email us at tobaccofreecampuses@gmail.com, and we'll do our best to set you up with a local advisor. Again, here's all our contact information. Thank you again for listening to us, and we're going to open it up to questions right now. Again, if you have questions, please enter them into the Q&A portion, or the Q&A portal at the top of your screen. The first question we have right here is, how do you get college administrators excited about and active in policy enforcement? And I'm going to turn this one over to Cliff.
Okay, thank you, Josh, and thanks again to Vidisha as well. You've just done a terrific job of pulling all of this together, and I have to tell you that you help energize me as I go forward, too. It's much appreciated. And let me also just start following up on Josh's and Vidisha's remarks about the challenge itself. Let's get everyone here the recognition that you deserve, that in many cases you've already earned, and let's help empower your efforts to move your policy forward if you're just starting or if you're midway through your effort on campus. But regarding interesting your leadership, if they're not already engaged in this issue, it really depends on your culture, on your, let's say, local politics in a sense, and campuses really can vary quite a bit. But one of the things that we've seen have an impact around the country is the impact of student leadership and organizational activism on campus, as well as the involvement of other key members of the community, faculty and staff, and even parents, by the way, in raising their voices to raise the priority and the attention level of the president or the chancellor or the provost in terms of pursuing this on campus. And, you know, sometimes a campus's leadership just haven't made this a priority. It's not always or necessarily because they wouldn't be interested in it, but, you know, we deal with a lot of key issues on campus, including other health promotion issues. Many of us are involved in issues related to, obviously, alcohol use on campus, or the use of marijuana or other drugs, or suicide prevention, and dealing with issues having to do with depression. So, you know, our view of this is to blend the tobacco prevention goal and our interest in adopting these policies into the broader health mission of the institution. In a sense, it's really not logical to separate it or to leave it off the table when we're dealing with all of these things having to do with promoting the health and well-being of our student body as well as our broader community. So, I mean, those are the things that come to mind when I think about how do we interest our leadership in this. And again, anytime any of us can be of assistance by providing some input to support your efforts, please let us know.
Cliff, this is Jim Lando. I appreciate your response. I think the question was specific to enforcement. So I'm wondering if that might have been someone who already has policies in place but is concerned about how to get them to actually enforce them.
Well, institutions use different tools for enforcing their policies. A lot of institutions these days, University of Michigan would be an example of this, use what's been called enforcement light. They don't use security personnel, but rather all of the tools of communication. And then programs like the University of Kentucky's, which is referred to as an ambassador program, where members of the community, students and faculty and staff sign up, receive training, and then actually spend time in person around campus visiting those so-called hotspots where some cigarette smoking or other tobacco use might be continuing, to engage directly with the community. And then, of course, using social media and the various communications tools that campuses have, you know, from the school paper to websites and the like. There are some institutions that will use a more formal enforcement approach that might involve security, even ticketing. Some smaller institutions will issue a nominal ticket, but to enforce adherence to the policy. You know, we see widespread compliance in general, and this is familiar because it's what we've also experienced with restaurant and bar and workplace smoke-free policies that, of course, become widespread over recent years. And these policies are largely self-enforcing. As a result, people comply, and there has been a change in attitudes and social norms so that most people also understand the need for why these policies are warranted. But when there are issues having to do with compliance, in addition to the slightly heavier hand that some institutions use, you can use student codes of conduct and the usual disciplinary policies that apply to staff and simply cover the tobacco policy under those.
Thanks. I'm going to, there are a couple more questions, but I also wanted to reiterate something that I mentioned earlier. And since this was sent out to health professional schools and to public health school, programs in schools, I just want to reiterate the idea that even if you have something going on in your own campus, this is a good opportunity for you to get your students involved in adopting another campus nearby. And I know we don't often cross institutional boundaries, but really I think it's a community service for those institutions that have health professional schools within them and have public health programs and schools within them to reach out to other local campuses. And it's a great opportunity for your students to provide leadership in this area, and for you, for your faculty and staff to do the same.
Thanks, Dr. Lando. We have another question. Do you have any kind of formal checklist that you use to internally to determine if the campus is considered to have a comprehensive tobacco-free or smoke-free campus? I'll just briefly mention that if you go to our website, tobaccofreecampus.org, one of our close partners is the American Non-Smoker, ANR, the American Non-Smokers Rights Foundation. They have a policy criteria that we like to follow. It's relatively strict, and that talks about certain exemptions. And they also have a series of model policies that we have on our website as well that we would encourage you to look at as well. Cliff, do you have any more to add to that?
No, actually, that was perfect. That criteria sheet was developed in recent months specifically for the purpose of responding to this exact question. And so it is linked to on our site and of course, resides on the Americans for Non-Smokers Rights website itself. But it's a good tool, and it's very useful for your own advocacy purposes on campus, too, because if you're pursuing a policy and you're running into some skepticism or suggestions that some of the terms of the policy be softened, say, where exemptions are added, like a smoking hut zone or something. It's very helpful to go to this criteria sheet and point out that, in fact, we're not going to qualify as a smoker tobacco-free campus unless we apply these standards.
Great. We have another question. If you are interested in becoming tobacco-free, are there any suggestions for community partners that you should engage? I'll turn this to Badisha first, and then if Cliff, you have anything else to add?
Locally here, we definitely have the American Lung Association, and we have the Respiratory Health Association, Greater Chicago. Those are just two that are just off the top of my head, but there are plenty, and we also do have a list. We can also help you find your partners once you contact us with your interest in signing on to the challenge. Those are just a few ideas that I had, but I'm sure Cliff has others.
Well, that's exactly right. And folks, wherever you are, you'll tend to know who is in your area. But we've worked very closely throughout with these partner public health organizations, the ones who specialize in these issues, including providing cessation services in many cases, like the American Lung Association, American Cancer Society, American Heart Association, and others. They can be very helpful. And the Cancer Society, just for example, has its own project called Colleges Against Cancer, and they're on campuses. There's the Relay for Life activities, and so those are natural allies who can provide as well as some resources, credibility, and expertise in supporting you.
Okay, we have one last question, and I'll turn this one to Cliff because it seems to be most apropos to you. How do you enforce a policy on an urban campus with shared sidewalks and stuff like that?
Great question. It frequently comes up. We have some major urban institutions who have adopted these policies. I'll give you probably the classic example is the City University of New York, which has campus areas in all 5 boroughs of New York City. The way it's handled is, generally speaking, the perimeter sidewalks of these campuses. People are allowed to go to those perimeter sidewalks and smoke. The University of Michigan, actually, while it's in a much smaller city of Ann Arbor, the perimeter sidewalk that rings the Ann Arbor campus, people can go and smoke, out on that sidewalk. And one of the details here, but I think it's important because it involves relations with the city around you and respect, is people who smoke are not required to cross the street onto city property because we're sensitive to the fact that we don't want to send folks over in front of local business establishments and then drop their cigarette butts in front of their doorways. So this is one of the very sort of practical, respectful concessions, if you will, which still enables you to keep a very strong policy but deals with this sort of real-world circumstance of, what will people do if they choose not to quit smoking and they continue. So they can do it on perimeter streets. There's some other technical issues having to do with city streets that may run through the middle of a campus. We all address those issues. Northeastern University in Boston has done so and done it very well. And one of the things we can do is we can provide linkages to these policies in precisely the way one deals with, some of the technical fine points of doing this in an urban setting.
Great. Thanks for your answers, everyone. And I'm going to turn it back to Vidisha.
Thanks, Josh, and thanks, Cliff, and Dr. Lando, so much for being with us today and helping to answer all the questions. I just want to thank everyone who joined us for the webinar. I also understand that some of you had some issues getting onto the webinar. If you missed any portion of the webinar at all, we have it recorded, and we will send everyone that registered a link to the webinar as soon as I have it, and then hopefully we'll be able to hold another one, perhaps early fall, but just so that all of you who are on know that we will be having the webinar available in the near future. Thanks again, everyone. And
Vidisha, I just want to throw in one thing. It will be archived on the website at some point in the future as well, so stay tuned for a link to that on the website.
Perfect. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. That concludes today's conference. Thank you for your participation. You may disconnect at this time.